Good morning, everyone. It is a Thursday morning, and I'm back with you from Walk the Web, and I'm Dr. Aaron Dishno. This is a big start. We're doing a bunch of stuff, cleaning up some code, and we're also working on getting rid of iframes, going with some more advanced features and some functionality that actually works more reliable and faster. So I had a number of iframes that were doing some admin functions, and we're getting rid of them so that we can completely use newer technology and better technology, more reliable, and see if we can't make the product work even better. So, jumping right back in, just to let you know, I did one of the, well, it took me 2 hours this morning to do the molds form because the molds form has all the mesh properties, and that probably has the most number of fields is everything. So instead of boring you with 2 hours of switching over that little gem, I basically took care of that before I started today. And we're moving on, and it looks like the next thing in line are the things. We've got a handful of different pieces that are related to this piece of code, and gonna jump right in and start replacing all the various functions that are related to things. We've already done communities, buildings, we've done avatars, we've done a lot of pieces. So now this is just next in line and getting them kicked out. So we'll jump right in and see if we can make some dents in this. Go back to our code page here and there we go. Okay, starting with, I kind of like to start with save thing. That's usually my default go-to starting point. When I look for it, notice there's a copy. That one has a callback function at the end, but the other thing doesn't. This is the one we're going to look for, but before I do, here's the format of what I'm looking to do. It's that layout. So I'll copy that just so I can have it in a new position here. This is the call we're replacing that did iframes. I'm going to put that right there for the moment. And okay, scoot it over a little. Okay, so we have the thing IND, which I don't even know why we're bringing that in there. So this is what I've been doing. The first part is we are doing, well, first of all, things. I want to make sure I did that. I had a couple of them I had to go back and fix. There we go. So we're using the handlers things page. This is the save thing function. So I'm going to put that right there is the name of the function we're going to use. And we're immediately going to go over here and under the functions, we're going to set that one up. And we already know from this, when we run that function, this is the code we're running. So I'm going to copy that to this page and put it right here. And the next part is kill off the post part of it, because we're going to be reading in local variables, and each one of these will be just that. So we'll create the variables, create the code to read in the variables, and keep moving forward, right? Okay, analytics ID, and alt tag. That gets us the basics. Copy these. Since I just named them all, we know they're all spelled correctly and everything. Come right here, paste that. Give them each a line. Looks like I've done this a few times now, huh? Like I said, when I did the molds, we must have probably 50, 60 properties on the molds, so they take a little bit longer to do and very repetitive on a lot of parts of it. So this part here kind of helps to set these up fast. And in here we have, first of all, I don't want to automatically lowercase everything like I did the function name, which makes sense on the function name, does not make sense on anything else. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. So then we have thing ID. and we're going to read that value in as thing ID, pass thing ID, which are used for making copies of other things. So if I had one and I'm going to make another copy of it, I use that one to reference which one I'm making the copy of, and then the other name is the one that takes on the new ID. And analytics ID gets passed whenever we need to set that. And of course, the Alt tab. The Alt tab is used actually for when you mouse over something, you can tell it what name to be. Nice friendly thing for kind of like when you put your mouse over a picture or something. This does it for 3D and all the different objects that are in your scenes. Okay, so that reads it in, puts it in here, and POW goes off to our edit thing ID. We don't even have an edit thing ID. It is going to be just plain thing ID, Z thing ID. In case it goes in without something, it'll come out with something, and that's only if I have a callback function that needs to do that. Okay, most of those I've actually taken care of where I've passed them into it. Notice also that this was the case. Before, I used to pass the IND, which is the index of the thing that I'm replacing or working with. Well, when you're editing one of them, it's always a 0 because you're only working with one thing ID. So that doesn't really apply too much. And then the other part is, since it's only being used in a callback function, not so critical anymore because the callback function actually happens right here. And we're also going to make sure that's out of there. So kind of a different structure, different way to call things, different way to bring things back. In this case, we do not have an ID because if I'm not mistaken, submit thing form, case 1, thing name, I should be setting the thing ID because then if it exists, it will automatically update it. Why? I have the IND and I have this stuff. That would be just for a new mold or a new thing. But yet here we have the thing ID is there. So I didn't pass the thing ID. That is really interesting. Oh yeah, I do. It's right here. I'm sorry. Okay, so thing ID comes through as thing ID. We do not need building a community because we're working directly with the thing. The next one is thing IND, which we don't need. The pass thing ID is blank. So we're just gonna regurgitate that answer. And then we have, after that, pass thing ID, we have the thing name, which will be this, analytics ID, and alt tag. We're copy those and drop those right here. That will give us those 3 values. I kind of like a little bit of spaces for my expanded code, and then I take all the spaces out when we do the condensed version of it anyway. But it's all part of the game. Okay, so that does that. I don't think we have a callback function on this one because we already confirmed that with our little search here. The copy function does, but the callback, the other one doesn't. So we don't have to worry about it for this stage. And that means we're good to go with getting rid of that piece. And that's all it took. We've got things. This saves the thing, gives those properties, sets them in place, and we're good to go. Copy that. And finally, the last part of this is over here. Since we've already done that, I'm going to pull that out of there, and we can take that one out. And since there's nothing down here, we already know it's not down here. Okay, the next one, I'm going to double check these, but I have a feeling this is no longer used. Find in files and confirmed. It's in this place, but it's nowhere else, which also means open new web. I don't think I want to double check that. I'm just cleaning out some code wherever we can. Open new web is only called from here, and this function is not being used. So that pretty much takes care of that one. Before I leave this, I'm going to make sure I copy that. That'll be useful for the next one. And we're going here. And like I said, whenever I can and do not need something, I get rid of that piece of code. We do it a different way now, that's all it is. And now back into here. The next function is, so save new thing didn't have anything. And save thing copy, we do know we found one of those. So go in here, look at this spot, and here we go. It's part of copy things, so we're going to do some of this stuff is going to be very similar as the last time. We have thing ID, which we're sending in blank. See, these are the values we actually passed in. This is just a structure that helps us pass them, so that's no problem. We're using these values and we're just passing them directly to the function now. Copy thing ID is actually the past thing ID, so we're going to put that in there. Okay, we do not need that one because we don't even use it. And it's using the same function that we just did. So past thing ID is the copy. We got that one. We have thing name, alt tag, and analytics. Alt tag and analytics are blank because that would only exist if you're copying something. Alt tag could be the same. I'm not too worried about that one. Let's leave it the same. But the analytics is different because it is a new object now. But let's say I called it a chair, and when you highlight over it calls it a chair. It's still a chair, so the alt tag still applies. And save thing also applies, even though we have a different function. The reason, here's something. The reason we ran multiple things using the same function, but then had different names for it, was because certain ones had different callback functions. But now I'm passing in the callback function with the actual call. So when I go in here, I can manually put that in here and tell it to, on thing complete, use this particular value and do it. Now remember, copy thing, we went in without knowing what the thing value is. So next part of that is we have this thing ID, which becomes the new thing ID. And the only thing I have to do, I keep saying the word thing many times here, is put this right here and pass back thing ID as this value right here. And we've already designed this to pass back our encoded response of that particular object. So it becomes really easy to finish out that callback just by putting something in that array. And now that value gets returned. And that means in our code, when we do this, we want this thing ID. Technically, it is response.thingID, and that's the complete part. Copy thing complete, it'll run that function now, and it will basically set that ID into the code. So that one is another 1, 2, 3 slam dunk. No other changes needed, and we're good to go. Okay, so that was nice and friendly. That one's replaced. I'm going to copy that once again before I move on. And up here, since we have copy thing, we're going to remove it and keep on working out our code. I don't think we're doing clear thing anymore. So let me just glance for that real quick. There's no reason for it because you can create a new object with nothing at all very quickly. So no reason for that function. Became obsolete with some of the new changes I did in the code. Now we have delete thing. Delete thing happens here. Same idea. I'm going to put this code in here, and now we're going to give it the proper things. We're going to call that delete thing. Copy that, and here set a new case. And when it runs, it is going to run this. Now, mind you also that I am doing all the last minute checks of the permissions to see if you're allowed to do that right at the end of this function. So basically, even though I'm passing it right to the function without any problem here, I'm checking your session, your user ID, and everything else to see if you have valid things right at the function level, so that anybody passes anything to the function, it still gets rechecked right before it actually does that process. Safest way to make sure you always have permission before that particular piece happens. Okay, thing ID, the only thing we really need here is the thing value. Thing value is this one. We're going to put that right here. And by passing that value and the delete thing command, we're already telling it what piece to do. And was there a callback on that one? Yes, there is. It's right here. Delete thing. Oh, because we deleted it, one of the things we have to do is we basically bounce you back to the, after it's been deleted, there's no reason for it to be loaded, so we unload it from your screen by calling the admin page directly. That will keep you in admin, but remove the piece that you had loaded and take you right out of there. So no problem with that. That's the complete process, and we've nailed down another one here. Is there anything else happening? No, there's a delete cookie. Okay, this is something that I set up earlier, and I haven't decided if that's going to be part of this or not anymore. What it is, I allowed it to remember a cookie so that when you came back into your code, if you go back to admin, it would reload what you were working on last. Don't know if I'm going to still be doing that or if it's a different process altogether now, but either way, it's not needed at this point in time, so I'm not going to keep dragging that around with me. And we have delete thing. That was a pretty easy one to do. It's out of place, and here we can now clear it out. When I know these things are all cleared, all the functions that it ran, then I know that I've completed killing this iframes page. So that's why I'm just going down the list, each one at a time. We'll do save start position next. Find files, all. And we have this. Notice this right here. Okay, this is the new one. This is the one we were already running. And we have save start position. Now, the thing about it is the values are all the same for the ones right above it. So I'm going to put the name of the function in here. We'll get that set up back here. Case this. And we have all that in place, and we're going to grab our function that it does. I'm peeling things away, actually cutting them out of the other page as I do them so that we constantly trim down what's there so there's no debate in my mind going on, hey, was that still in use? By removing them as I go, basically kicks them out. I'm dropping this all the way back to the words position X, Y, and Z so that they easy to work with and we don't have such long names on everything. No reason. When I first did it, I was actually working with, well, when I name them in the main page, there's a lot of different things that have scaling, position, and rotation. Almost everything has a scaling, position, and rotation, it seems like. And because of that, I have to name them, you know, mold scaling, mold position, action zone position, and all this other stuff. But when you go into these functions, they're already separated out. The handlers are one per each type of item you're working with. So in this case, we're working with things, we already know that's the thing position, our starting position that we're working with, because it's the only reference in the table for this object are those items. So now that we have those in place, this is the one I'm working on, and go into here. There's a couple things I can do. One of them is position, rotation, and scaling. Copy that. And it is going to be the same thing right here. We pass the thing ID and the position, scaling, and rotation. About as simple as that part gets, because it is it is getting you values of this right here. Rotation X, did I do the offset? Yes, I did. Okay. Okay, so we have those values. They're all being passed in properly, and now this one's no longer needed. Before I did it once and then passed it into each one of these values. We're doing a little different format, so that doesn't quite apply anymore. And we do not need to go anywhere after that's done. There was no callback function. And another one, bites of dust. Another one bites of dust. Another one bites of dust. And another one's gone. Another one's gone. Another one bites of dust. Ooh, gonna get you too. Okay, so there was one more part I need to do on here, and that's under my handlers, like under buildings. I don't want to have to retype all these again, so I'm just going to copy the rotation of objects, and we know all those variables are in place, and here's all the reading of the variables. Copy that. My eyes did something weird. Okay, looks good. Copy that and drop that right here. And now we have all the variables that we're bringing in to do that particular position. And I can get rid of that. And we're back to the things page with that one gone. Next, we're going to do save gravity. There is no gravity on this object. There is no function that calls that gravity yet. That's why it's remarked out. So until we come up with a need that a thing has gravity, well, let's see if we actually called it from the code. That's going to be our determinant. Oh, we actually did. Okay. I said the word actually about 6 times in a row in that statement. Apologize for that. I try not to overuse the same word many times. But when it comes to this stuff, there are certain words that it's inevitable. Okay, go to the gravity statement, and here's where we're calling gravity. I'm going to do the call function for it, but I already know that we're not setting the actual gravity. I'm going to leave one statement where we'll call it, this is... the gravity. Gravity is this right here. And we'll get rid of that right there. And it will be the same as this one. Save gravity. Save gravity. The only difference is the handler is the things and not the other pieces. Notice there's no callback function or anything happening. We already know response. Response is blank. We're good to go. And in here, the only thing we did was grab the gravity and tell it to save it. There we go. Gravity, save it. And that one's done. Almost. It's done on this end. Then in the things page, we'll do case save gravity. And then I'm going to put this placeholder of an item. Copy that. And there's nothing actually on the website that calls this yet, so there's no reason for me to take this any farther. The function's not in place. The website doesn't call it. If I find a use for it, I'll revisit it, and just with the placeholder matching all the other ones that we use, it becomes real easy to grab that value and you know, add the extra functions to it. Okay, we have gravity. Copy that and put our variable up here. There we go. And the other part is anywhere I do that, I set a default on some of these values. So it'd be 9.8 if there's nothing else passed on to it. So easy enough. Got a couple pieces in place there. Nice to do. Looks good. That one's in place, and it would call the function if needed, and it could be added very easily the same way it once almost existed from this page. So that's gone. There's no callback on that, so we're good to go there. The next one I'm going to do is this must have. I don't know if we're even using this one in the code anymore. Oh, I do. Okay, good. This one, this is kind of a cool little function. What happens is when you're a new user and you put certain things in your system, you get a brand new install. This will make sure that you have some things in your toolbox to work with. I will be expanding this one a little bit more later on, but it was a nice thing I set up when I first started this, and I'll probably be revisiting this one to make sure that it has the right pieces in place that I want you to have. So for now, I just want to make sure that it does what it did before, or at least the potential for doing that. So we'll say add must have, and things is blank. Okay, that's just because that's the name of the return variable. That's something it's bringing back. And am I doing anything on the callback? That's probably what it's going to be. It's probably bringing, that's the button list, select things, okay. I'm going to check the callback, but this will be just add must have. That's the only thing it's going to bring. It's going to fire off that, and from there, we're going to have the function, and it does this. Okay, that has a function, and it brings back this variable things, and from there, what we're going to want it to do is bring back those things. So we'll teach it what that is. Things, and there we go. Now it's returning the variables. It's returning everything that it found of the must-haves. It'll call them. It'll bring them back. The only thing is, I think that relies on an internal function that stays internal. So I'm going to have to revisit that at some point. So yeah, I'll be bringing back that piece. I'm going to be revisiting this piece at some point in time, but I just want to make sure the parts of it that I'm currently using are... Okay, we did this function on the end of that. I'm going to grab that once more. Since we're replacing this, I want to make sure we're calling everything the way we did. And as I mentioned, that's going to be revisited, so I'm not going to worry about it too much, but this is what it passes from our function, and we're good to go. Okay, so doing all these pieces. Yeah. Technical mechanics. Cool. Cool. That sounds very interesting. Tell me more. Okay, continuing on. Let's see. So basically, when I wrote this product, what it is this whole thing that I created is actually, I, looking at the concept of WordPress, WordPress can create a traditional website, and you can have plugins so that it adds functionality to a web page. Very straightforward concept. Well, what I did was I created WalkTheWeb to be the same thing for games, so that you can create developers can create different plugins, and we can also use it as like a CMS-ish type thing that will actually manage what we're loading into game scenes. It could be games, it could be sections where a game is, it could be a 3D store for selling products for a business. They could be mixed in the same scene, everything else. The whole concept is that as you're walking up on scenes, it goes out on the internet, grabs the information off any other server, and brings it back and then renders it into your scene. Now, the one thing is I kind of treated like you have your scene, but you also have the buildings, and it doesn't have to be a physical building, it could be a game area or whatever, but each one of those can be hosted anywhere in the world and brought into your scene. So you can, like, let's say I created a paintball arena where you go in and play paintball. Well, just by having that and hosting it, anybody that has a scene can drop it into their scene and play paintball in their scenes. So people can assemble their own versions of games and create their own experiences of whatever they want people to be able to do when they go to their sites. So that's the concept in a nutshell. And right now what I'm working on is there was some sections in admin specifically where when I first wrote this, I had some trouble making things work on a couple different parts. But since then, a lot has happened, and we've finally got past a couple of the parts that were making me use iframes. Now, the biggest part is we have animation going on the front piece. So you have your active scene going on while you're working in it and playing around and walking around and doing everything. And behind that scene, while you change things and you update stuff or whatever with the interface, I want that animation to keep live all the time, so you don't get any pauses, you don't get any, jump starts, ridges, anything happening on that scene. So to do that, I do a lot of asynchronous calls and different pieces behind the scenes. Well, there were a couple things like whenever I loaded a new file or something like that, if I uploaded something, it would trip that and it would actually kill that process. So what I did was I basically used iframes so that the whole process happened on a different page. But now XML HTTP requests improved. We're able to pass data a lot more efficient, and now I can do it through that with the synchronous calls, and basically they don't interfere with the animation. So now that that works, I'm replacing it in the code wherever I used that type of functionality. That's it in a nutshell of what I'm doing today, and I'm going to continue on my way here and keep plugging along, get rid of these iframes everywhere we see them. So I've gotten rid of that one. Each one of these iframes have a bunch of different functions in them, and I'm moving them over to what I'm calling a file handler, which basically does it without using the iframes. But the whole concept is this. If you're a programmer and you want to, let's say you're the best at creating cars, you can create a car, and all it has to do is like a plugin, like in WordPress, you download it, boom, now it's available in your scenes. People can drag and drop them, put them right into the scenes, do the whole thing. But it would be like a freemium offer. So let's say you gave them like a Jeep to drive around. Well, if they want to have another avatar get in the passenger seat, or if they want to drive a Ferrari instead, you could have these things be part of the plugin that unlock if they pay you a fee to unlock it, or if they, or it may be something that you require a subscription. So the difference is as I get these, I dropped the code that I've done so far. All this stuff that I've done is out there open source, so anybody that downloads this can use the plugins. So you get just by creating the plugin, you get a distribution center of anybody that's downloaded this free code. If you are creating a 3D store for a business, you could drop the code. You could create it using this product and give them a tool for managing your 3D site after you build it. You can import things directly from Blender with animations right into, it uses Babylon as an engine, so you export as Babylon and load them right into right into the code. What I did was, let's see, So there's things like the media library, and you can come in here and you can actually just load things directly, Babylon objects. For each one of them, they have different properties, so you can tell it what files are part of it, anything from, anything that's needed to make it run. Also, you can set up animations so that if it's an object, you can even give it a friendly name, so you can call that from other JavaScript that you write. If it's on load event, we have all kinds of different events you can attach things onto already. If it has a particular name, or if it's a full scene, you can leave that blank and it'll just start it. You can set your frames of your animations. You can tell if it's loop or not. We even give you the speed controls, or even setting what animation happens after it's over. You can select sounds. It has 3D sound already installed into it. So we have all kinds of cool functionality built into here. Anything you drop in a scene, if you right click it, then you're editing that particular item. You can also just drop all kinds of extra stuff that I've done. Everything from particle spheres, smoke. If you want some to smoke, you just basically add the item to make it smoke. And get my where I'm not showing it through that. Okay, you can also change the scale and the size of the smoke or whatever you're working with, so that you can tell it what to do. And let's see. Also, if those lines are in the way, you can turn them off. I've got all kinds of editing tools for working with different stuff. Smoke seems a little weak today. I think it's because I did some changes to the fog layers, and the smoke is actually running in the fog. That's kind of funny. Let's see if it gets stronger when it gets closer. I'm just curious. Yeah, you can see the fog when it has a dark background layer, or a white background layer more. So, well, you can do some of everything. This is more about the framework for being able to build on, and it's an enhancement over Babylon, because Babylon, you can do Babylon code and directly and make it work in your plugins, but at the same time you can use all these other features to inputting things into scenes and doing stuff with it. So this is more the framework that stacks on top of Babylon to help it control what gets loaded and when, and also reach out on the internet and grab things and bring them back from other servers and stuff. So that kind of brings it all back and forth. Roblox, haven't actually played around with that. What can the people do here? Well, first of all, it is I've been working on some different multiplayer, so that when you go into scenes, if anybody else shows up, the multiplayers are there. We have everything from a ton of animations with your avatars. You can set your own color schemes on your avatars. There's a bunch of different animations. I was working on that section, so it's not loading just yet. I'll find out why it isn't, but there's different animations you can choose for your avatars. And we're getting it. We're getting it. So far, I haven't completed a game yet. I'm still in the process of working on that. I'm starting by just showing you how you can use the plugins and create your own plugins by creating a mini golf game. So I've been working on some different pieces of that. But the idea is that we get a common interface, and it's open source, so you can actually give me feedback if there's things you need, and we can create it into the interface, and then people can actually build games or 3D sites and different things from that. This is, yeah, it's a framework. It's a framework. For building 3D websites and games. So it's a way of assembling them, bringing them together. But here's the idea. If, let's say, somebody builds a 3D store, for example, then instead of just anybody who goes to my site and sees a 3D store goes shopping there, you can actually take that building and drop it into many scenes. Other people can go, hey, I have a scene, I want a t-shirt shop right here. You can actually take that person's t-shirt shop and drop it in your scene. You could even, I don't know, between the two of you, hey, you build a game, it's popular, hey, you could sell advertisement and say, hey, you want your building in my scene, then you have to pay me X amount of dollars. It's like doing virtual real estate. You want to put that building t-shirt shop in my golf course, then basically you have to pay me X amount a month or a year or whatever you want to work out with them. But see, it's a way of generating income and building things, but modular taking it into modules so that you can piece them together. Now, here's the thing. I can be hosting my scene over here and their buildings on it. Well, instead of them just going there to do 3D shopping, now they're doing 3D shopping if they're on my site or on his site. It could be hundreds of sites where that building's located. So the building itself can be expanded and set out in many places. And on anything that you create, one of the things I did was I've set it up so that you can actually set a Google Analytics ID, and even if it's hosted on somebody else's server, you'll get the feedback. You'll know which website it's running on. You'll know how many hits you had. I even do things like you can tell if it's been loaded from a distance, if it was loaded from close up, or somebody went inside. So I do different hits so that people get some type of analytics knowing how it's being used. That way you'll know, hey, did the outside of my building attract people to walk inside? So that part there benefits businesses. But the gamer, hey, you want to sell advertisement, instead of putting banner ads all over the place and everything else, you put the actual business in your game. So let's say I have a paintball game. I could actually have a store that sells paintball guns. And if you order one, it shows up at your house. So it's kind of like you can blend the things that work for you in your scenes. So it's just a way of assembling games, but also making them load and unload as you work on it. See that? Just like that cube on my screen. When I walk back far enough, it disappears out of the scene. What I've actually done is I've used, is that going to show me it or not? Or am I still too close? I'm working on different pieces and I think I broke that. This is my development ground right now, but normally I'm able to see the zones that I'm working in, and as I walk up on them, basically you'd be able to see, oh, it is doing it. That's funny. Okay, I added some fog, and now that I added fog, it interfered with some things. Okay, see how it has this box around it? This box is actually a way to tell if they're invisible by when you're normally using the site, but through admin I can turn them on by turning on the zones. But when you walk inside things, some of those boxes detect if the avatar walks in and then goes out on the internet and treats it like a click. So you clicked another web page. Well, in this case, by walking into the box, it goes out on the internet and it grabs the definition for the building or whatever it is that's inside that box that you want to load. So I've treated them, I call them load zones. So as you do things, they do different things as you walk inside. Now I was working on some different ones to load additional animations to the avatar as you walk inside. So like for my mini golf game, when he walks near a golf game, all of a sudden I load an animation to the avatar that allows him to play golf and do a putt. But then at the same time, it unloads when you walk back away. So it's stuff like that where I'm making it more like you're running on a treadmill. You can add things as you go, but as you walk away, it unloads the same things. So it works in a very efficient way. So this is, it does have the properties of a sandbox. You can play around with it. You can try things, test things, work on it and everything else. And obviously this is the version I'm developing on right now. But at the same time, it is a framework for creating different things and assembling them. So if somebody creates something over here, somebody else creates something over here, you could have a scene that uses both of those objects just by using their plugins to put them into your scene. So that's the concept and that's the idea I'm doing. So I took the concept of what WordPress did with traditional websites and I applied it to a 3D gaming engine to do it with games and basically anything 3D websites. So that's kind of the idea. It standardizes it enough that anybody can create something and they're able to use it from different locations. That's the concept behind it. Okay, so getting back to my work here. I'm in the process of getting rid of iframes because that'll be a great enhancement to the way the product works. So going through the different items. I'm on most days, so if you want to follow me, you'll know when I'm online. And hey, I'd love to have you around and talk some more, and also show you some more examples. And as we create things, who knows? Uh, yeah, I totally get that. I totally get that. When I first started going to college, I was going for aerospace engineering. Then, yeah, well, a bunch of things happened, and next thing you know, I decided to go computers instead. So, but that was a while back. But yeah, definitely good luck with the studies on that. I appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with us a little bit. And we'll see you again. Take care, and definitely I'll keep working on this and it'll keep advancing. So if you want a project to work on or something to look at in your spare time or anything else, the link to download the code is right below you there. It's the GitHub site, and code's all available. I constantly put out updates as I'm working on different pieces of this. I'm on here most days doing it live and showing everybody what I'm doing. So thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. Okay, so back to getting rid of iframes. Next thing is to see where we've got another one. I'm going to copy this just so I don't lose the format that I've been working with. Copy that and jump over here. The next one I want to get rid of is import thing. Find that. Here it is, and that's the function we're going to get rid of. Give it a little space. I'm just putting this in here for the format, and next we're going to decide what it needs to do. Import thing is going to be the name of our function that it calls. Put that there and go to this page and create it. Case that. Okay, and back to here. And let's see, import thing uses this function. Cut that out of there and paste it here. And then the other part of that is get rid of the posts. We're using local variables. They all get read in by the process above. The thing name. We don't need the word thing in analytics ID. On the main code, a lot of the times the names are reused, so I set them up to, the more a page gets reused, the more I use names with prefaces that tell it what it's going to be. And here we go. Start position. Okay. And we're almost there. Scaling. And the rotation comes next. Good news is we've already passed all of these variables from the top, so I don't think, so far none of these are new to us. You can tell we used them just a couple lines up there. So they're already being read into this page. And the only thing I have to worry about is the new ones that weren't already loaded, which would be gravity. We already have, I think, because we told it to load it. And even though it's not being used, we're still tracking it. And alt tag, I think we even already had alt tag. Gravity, alt tag, yep, we do. Okay, so those variables are all being brought in already. We have pass thing ID, yes we do. Okay, that looks good. Analytics, position, okay. So all those variables are being called in by our page, so we don't have to worry about that. But on this page, we need to pass each one of these variables in. I did most of these already, so I'm just looking for where I've already named them all out. Well, that's a few of them. I guess it doesn't really matter. I was looking to see if I had most of them already spelled out. That way I wouldn't have to retype them all again, but in this case it's not a big deal. At least there's not as many as some other pieces of code. I've had some with a lot more properties. And that's, oops, Z thing ID. Okay, pass thing ID. I'm going to copy web ID. And just going down the list, thing name. Okay. Just have to match what was going in before for the most part. Analytics ID, and that one's blank, which means I probably didn't even need to pass that, but redundancy. Mold group, we did not bring in that one yet. Do I need it? We did not bring mold group and copy those things, but we didn't need them. I can tell that already. Because it's the callback function that used them, not the original value. So it's pretty easy to skip that there. Copy that. And of course, we already know there's a position XYZ, so I'll just do it that way. Y and Z. And Y, okay. And after position, we do scaling, of course. And same thing for scaling, things scaling X. And of course, there's a Y and a Z. And Z. Okay. And after scaling, we have the rotation. And that has an X, Y, and Z also. Okay, the next one is gravity. Have to know the gravity of the situation. I know. Wasn't funny. Copy that. Comma on each one of these lines. Little things like that will kill anything, right? Copy that. And this one's the last one. And it's the alt tag. If there was one before, we're passing it once again. And there we go. And an import thing, that's the name of it. Thing that's not the right piece for afterwards. Whenever I do an import thing, it does. Import thing is this one, so we don't need the parent anymore because we're not going from an what do you call it? We're not going from an iframe. So now all we need is copy web ID is that one. Put that there. And we have web ID is this thing ID. And the mold group is thing. Pretty simple. And we didn't have to pass them through the function anymore like we did with the iframe page because we get the callback right from here. Runs it, no problem. And we do create a new thing ID here. Let's put that in place because that should be there. And then the other part was I did some progression on the progress bar over there, and just so people see things actually working and doing something, I'll put that right before it. Okay, so that calls that one, and we are done with this one on this side. Import page. That's everything there. Okay, so those are all the values. Those are the pieces that runs the process. Yay, next one done. And we're almost there. There's only 2 left, and I think only one of them are actually in use in the code. Share thing template. Find that. And on this side, I'm going to grab one like that, just so we have something to work with. Okay, so inner XML of, okay. Well, this wouldn't have worked well anyway because it's calling the button, and that's when the button gets clicked. That's the only part that matters with this code. It's nice that it's fine that there is a button. There's a local button, and then there's a button on the other page. This is the button on the other page. This other stuff, there happens to be a local button with the same name. Since they were on iframe page and not an iframe page, there it really wasn't an issue. So let's put this here, and this is share thing. Okay, so we do not have the thing ID is this. We'll put that there. Okay, it's good. The IND we do not need. The share name. That will be the thing name. So I'm going to pass that there. Analytics ID is always blank. I don't have to worry about that. Description and tags. Those are 2 values I do not have yet. I don't think I need description and tags. Okay, that's all it is. So I don't need analytics, and it's called tags. And I can pass the tags with this value. And I just saw wherever I copied that from, I already know that I have something wrong there. Didn't have a comment at that one thing, and it's going to notice that right when I do my page load, so I'll find that error. I'm sure I will. I'll get there in just a minute. I'll find it. And the description is this value. Copy that. Description is here. Okay. Did those values, put it into here. Pass thing ID is blank. That's all fine. And now with this stuff, let's go into here. Add the case. And get it from here. Then we have thing ID, share thing template name. I changed that, and I just passed in thing name. There was no reason to make another field just for that value. Then we have description, which we will add, and we have tags. That only helps other people search for the item when they find them, so just so you know, that's what the description and tags are about. Okay, so these are the 2 values that I need to add up on top here. And then same thing down here. Got to read in whatever values we pass. And this one's description. And this one's tags. Okay, that'll get us the values. That will run them from here, and the final part of that is when it does all that stuff, there's a kickback afterwards. Nope, that's only on the save thing template. Okay, so we do not have anything it has to do after you've shared. That's all fine. We've given it everything it needs. It passes those values in, and there's no callback function. Okay, so kill off that down to there. And one of the things I noticed when I just did that one was if I go here, find this somewhere, those are fine. This one was missing a comma right there. Okay, got it. Now it's back in place. That one should work. Let's make sure. Okay, so that one's gone. There were no other parts of that, so we're good on that one. And save thing template, this one I believe is not in use. It's something that has to be rewritten anyway, so it's only being used internally on this page. I'm not going to move that one over yet because there's a lot more to that. I will get to that one. That one has to cross back to another server, and so we're not at the point of doing that just yet. Actually, I did it a different way. This isn't where it's calling it from. That's what the difference is. Okay, so if that's the case, then this file name to clipboard, find, and what I'm going to do is iframes, check that particular name, find all, and basically it is still in use on downloads page. We have something still. Oh, I did the change out of this and didn't get rid of one extra line here. Somehow I didn't get all of it out of place. So now that's in place. This one measures up to there. Okay, that's what it was. It was just some lingering thing. That's one reason why I check it. And this is the page I'm getting rid of, and move to dumpster. Boom. Gone. Okay, save that, bring that there. And in the class, last thing I need to do to make that all work, in things, we were pointing it at the iframes before for the class, and now we are replacing that with handlers. Good to go. Now that one's done. After recycle bin, boom, it's gone. Okay, and as I'm going, I always copy the old code. I've got copies of it and everything else. So if I ever need to revive something or recheck something, I've got old copies of the code, obviously. We also have it on the GitHub, the latest versions of it. So that's not an issue. Okay, now that one's all in place, let me just refresh this page just to see if there were any syntax errors in the code. Yeah, I missed one here. Let's see, 1636 in the admin editor page. So here, 1636. This is the kind of stuff I check. Yep, there it is. Missed another comma at the end of a line leading to that one. So let's see if that gets through all that properly. Okay, now it's loading the proper way and no problem. So we'll go ahead and keep that going and keep moving forward. That's another iframes page gone. Yay. Boom, gone. Okay, so the next one, handler things. I'm going to do users next. And that's going to be this one. So that will be some of the user data. Let's see, it has, there's a handful of different functions on this one. Has to do with setting permissions on your site and a number of other pieces. So we're going to jump in on that. But before I do, I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break and refill my coffee cup and Yeah, take a couple steps on the pedometer. You know how it goes. Got to keep in shape with all this hours of sitting and programming. So I will be back in 5 minutes and we'll continue right where we left off. Okay, I'm back and here we go once again. Gonna jump in on this page. This one has a number of different functions. They're a little different than some of the other places that we've worked with in the past. Has to do with the user profile, save user, all kinds of good fun stuff. Allows you to add permissions for different users to be able to see and work on your websites with you. So this is kind of the all-in-one wrapped up place like that. So starting with giving my copy of one of these just so that I have it the exact same framework every single time. I like to make it look the exact same way in the code every single time I run into one. So the first thing I'm going to do is let's start with save user. Just seems like a good place to start. And let's see how many times this gets used in the code. Oh, once. Nice. There's only once. And it does have a callback function, so we'll mind that when we get to it. Okay, first things first, right here. I'm going to change this to users so that we know which handler we're doing. And then this part, I'm going to just cut that out of there since we're going to use them up here anyway. And the other thing is I'm leaving the functions in place. Also, that callback is no longer needed. That's a different one for this. Okay, so we have the user ID, we have the username and the user email, 3 values we're passing in, get the comma after that, and then we're doing a function called save user. So on this page, here we go, jumping in, switch functions, case, save user, the break, and on this page, take this, X, put that there, and we have user ID, username, and user email. Okay, these 3 values, are going to be added up here. And we're going to read them in. So start with a default value of nothing. And we need to do this exact same thing minus the string to lower. To read in all 3 values, we have user ID, username, and user email. Okay, so that brings in the values, pops it into there, does this function, that part's all set. And then the only part we need to add is there's a save user down here, which is right here, and it does open all users. Okay, so when we've added one to the list, this thing actually repopulates the list to show the changes you've made. So we're just telling it to run that function again at the end so that once it's done its save, you do this and basically refreshes the page that you're currently looking on. That's all that's doing, and we can get rid of all that through there. That will take care of that one. Okay, next. That's the piece I'm going to save. Okay, click save every once in a while. Save user, I'm going to pull that back out of there. It is the same thing, but obviously each one of these can have a different callback, so I don't need to keep that word there. After save user, we have save new user. Let me find out where that's being used. Okay, that's going to be very similar to the one we just did. In fact, it has a lot of the same functions. We're going to see how much alike it is here in a second. Okay, the save user function does, save new user function is this. I want to see in here, is there a difference between that and this? Oh yeah, there are two different functions, and I think I know why, but we're gonna go ahead and do both of them anyway. Or we're gonna do both of them. So do that and break. So it is username, password. Oh, it does the password. Hence, new user applies the password while the other one isn't doing that. And know that I am doing it base64, passing any passwords or anything like that, so nothing's going through as plain text. Not hard to decipher, but still keeps the novices from looking at the values. And that's only during the passing. After it passes it, then it becomes a full-fledged other part anyway. So let's see. That's going to be save new user. We need to tell that on this page that it is save new user. And we'll find out if it has a callback in a minute. But it has a couple different values here because we have user name. We don't have a user ID yet. See, that's the thing. And so we need username, we have password, and email. Okay, so username, password, email. And that's exactly what we're passing into here. Save new user, user ID is blank. We automatically have user ID blank when we go into the file, so that part is all handled. And this whole thing is now obsolete all the way to there. And the last part is to check on that callback function. What was it doing? Is it just open all users? Once again, got that, copy that, and save new users gone. In here, put it right there, and we got open all users. Okay, another one done. Nice and easy. Copy that, and moving right along. Save the page. Going on to the next function. I'm trying to cherry pick these and doing them a good order here. I like having most of the save. There's different things I'm putting in different orders. Let me get delete user, and then we'll do profile and stuff. We'll get some login next and register. Those are going to be some good ones. Okay, so delete user, find that. Find all. Delete user is being used right here. User's not blank. Okay, sounds smart. And the only thing we need to send in there is our user ID. And put a comma after that. Pass in the user ID, and it's going to be delete user. Which means we also are going to go in here and create that case function. This is the only place, the reason I'm picking them in a certain order is so that this part gets built up in a certain pecking order. Not a big deal if it's not. It's just, I tend to try to do things in an orderly fashion. So by doing that here, we're getting just that in place. And this one is by user ID, which of course we already have brought in, so we're good to go on that. That piece is all in place, and the callback function, as if you didn't already know, is the same one as the other two. Copy that, delete user, we get rid of that piece. Eliminated. And I think I left it in place. Yep, it's right here. So same thing, calls it, does the delete user by ID, and right here does that piece, and it's done. So the only thing we had to do is replace that right there, and it's out of the place. So that one's done. Another one's done. Okay, moving right along. Let's do login. Here's where it is in the code. That's also the name of a button. Don't worry, that's not the same thing. Here's the code where it calls that process. New line of code here. And I think we just need the word login as the call. And we can add that. Oh, this is on the common page. How interesting. I put that on the common page. Okay. I guess we do it for more than... Okay, I'm not worried about it. If I put it there, I had a reason. Oh, because it happens on all things, not just when you're in admin mode. Duh. That makes more sense. You can log in as a user and remember settings and do different things from your user. So, including pick your own avatar out of 10 different avatars instead of the 2 robotic looking ones. Okay, login process. Here it is. And copy that out of there. Go here, and this one's going to have a couple things. So first of all, we have the username. We have user email. Don't worry, it uses one or the other. It doesn't use both. And we have their password attempt. And that's encoded. Okay, so we have user email already. We already have password, which is... Oh, we didn't do password yet. Okay, let's do password. That's why I'm checking. Copy that. Password. And password's going to be here. Okay, and then the last one, login, username is already there, so we're good on that. User email and password. Okay, so, boy, for only a couple of different variables, I put them in all different orders as I was going. Email comes last, then all of a sudden email comes before. I guess it's the order that they are in the forms, so no problem there. And this particular one has a callback, and it actually has a purpose. So let's go find the login. With the login, when it comes back, it brings me a login response. The login response will be basically, let's get to where it is. Here it is. And the login response is basically actually, I don't need the parse there either. Login response is all the data about the user minus the password, of course. So Z response, Z response, login response. Login response will be posted here. So if I take that and put it here, and basically copy that, login response and login response. Okay, so this is going to return the values. They automatically gets passed back as encoded, and then gets read again from the other end of the code. That means that's done, and we're ready to go on that one. It was all right here. We can now get rid of this part here, which does the other piece of code, and we're all self-contained right there, nice and pretty. Okay, so if it has so basically if it has an @ sign in your login username, then it checks the email. Otherwise, it uses it as a login username. Those values are passed. I didn't even do the passing of the values. That's why I was checking. Before we get rid of everything, need to pass the actual values. Take these and there. Put a comma after that one, and we're ready to go on that. So we pass values in, and it does the other part's coming out. Okay, so that's that one. Copy that, save it, and moving on to the next one. After login, we have register. Let me see what kind of logic we did on this thing. Oh, I just do a couple checks here. I could go to the function end of it, but for now I'll leave it right where it's at. Let's get this, find all. That's where we're doing the register command. Need to add more validation, or needed to add validation. Okay, I'll put that in here at some point in time. For the moment, these are the values that I'm passing in. And put a comma after the last one. And this is called register. So register command happens right over here. And like I said, I've got a little extra bit of code here because it's bringing back one value and then making a little bit of a decision of what it needs to do. But by doing that, we're also going to have which means the Z error. Okay, we're doing a little bit of formatting here around it. This will be cleaned up later on because I'm going to pass those things back and do it on the function end of it, bring it back as part of the results, and send the whole thing back with that already in place. So there's no reason to have these extra little pieces here. The other part, though, is it is going to have a callback and it is going to have some values. So I'm going to take care of that next. But let's first login name, user email, and we're going to have so much to test by the time I'm done with all this stuff, but it'll be good in the long run. So user email, username, and password, we already read in all those values. We already know that's all going to work. And in this part, I know I'm going to do some type of thing like this, except it's going to be the results of this. So let me just figure out what we're doing. In here, when I do the register, oh, I'm reloading from scratch. I'm telling it to go grab it. So there is no callback function. Well, wait a minute. If there's no callback function, then how did the S error get back to the code? Okay, we're going to send the error back to the code just because that is going to be used somehow. So let's take this, go here. That's what happens on the other end of it. But we're going to process if there's any errors. Oh, see, I even got a note that says, hey, process any errors. I plan to recheck that at a different point in time. But since this is registering, yeah, what I'll do is this. And basically, we're bringing back our S error. String error, by the way, is S error opposed to just error. It's a string that we're expecting. We're bringing it back. We're sending it back to the user. And on this side of things, oops, first of all, register. That one's done. And on this side of things, when we're doing that, see, we're not checking it here at all. I'll get to that part. I'm not going to bring that in just yet because I'm going to be doing that for all of these at some point in time here. So take that out. that gets us the piece, and create account complete. It'll check and see if there's an error. It'll do whatever it needs to do on that side of things. I could pass account complete. I can actually show the error right here. We're telling it to go here, but we do not have. Okay, so if I do Z S error, then over here I can just say, and I can say show if error. Just so I know that's a note in the code that when I see that again, I can go back and work on it. There's different places I have little notes of things I need to finish. But it still works without it, so that's why I'm continuing on the... If I go off on tangents, I never get anything done, right? So in this case, I'm plugging right along. Okay, so moving right along, what else do we have here? We have profile, user roles, login, recover login. Let's do the recover login. That one's related to the login that I just did, so that makes perfect sense to do it right now. Common code had this. Copy that, and let's go here, once again in common code, okay. If, and it's checking a bunch of things. There's some validation on this one. We did some basic checks in an if statement. See if they included values, how long the values are, blah, blah, blah. Okay, in this one, all we need to pass is that. And this will be recover login by email. Okay, I think when I wrote out that name, I was expecting that I was going to be putting some more in here that were shorter. Recover email by cell phone or something, which is still a possibility. We'll get to that kind of stuff. Recover login by email. Here's the login process. X there. And while I'm here, take care of that real quick. Okay, login response, and if we want to return the login response, we can just do that because we already had it all in place. Still the same name, login response. Boom, that gets that back in place. Okay, recover login by email is the name of the function, and let's see if there's a callback. Recover login by email goes here with and deciphers the login response. So let's get rid of that one. Go back to here, and here's our code for that. And oh, this one I didn't even try to decipher. Okay, makes sense. Z response, login response, we're sending it to that function that takes care of that side of it. And just to confirm, the only thing I'm passing in is the email and a click of the button. That takes care of that. This will run that same process. And whatever's in the function. So I'm sure I'm doing more checks on that end of it. Okay. Simple enough. Another one down. Copy that. And on to the next one. What do we have? User access list. If I get user access list and then I do all this, save a role, save profile, add and remove permissions. I've got a ton of stuff here. Get user access list. I'm not even doing it this way now. We're already converted that one to JSON. That's why it's not even showing that as a possibility. End session is our logout. Well, since I did the login, I guess I could do the logout. Yeah, let's do that one next. I don't think there's much to this one. The only thing I call is logout. Let's go here. This is a very short one because the only thing I had to do was tell it to fire off that particular function. There is no request other than the function itself. We'll call it logout. This is a simple one. And yes, there's a process that runs on the other end of this one. I'm sure of it. Because when you log out, you need to do more than just that. So get that, go in here, create case, log out, and that's what it does. And on the other end of it, logout has, was it end session? That's what I called it here. Yes, I called it end session. It is logout, so I call it what it is. Oh, I didn't have it do something. Does that make sense that I didn't? I think it's because I already do it when I call the logout. Be in session. Oh, I've already done everything. By the time it closes out the session, I've already wiped out all the values that show that make it look like you're logged in. So there was not a callback. I didn't do it after the fact. I actually did it before the fact. So easy enough. That one's out of place. Boom. Into place, I mean. And this piece is all it called. Easy enough. It's gone. Okay, another one done. That is that one. And what's next? And session's gone. I'm just going to check here, see if this one's out of here. Ooh, it's still in use, but it doesn't call anything. That's interesting. Let me go down this rabbit hole for a minute. Get user access list, find in files. That is not the same thing. It is not being called from code. This one is obsolete. We're going to get rid of it because it's been replaced. So there's no reason for that code. There are no calls to that function in here. Works just good for me. And there are no more calls to that because we just deleted it. And get user access list is now out of there, which means open permissions form is still good, but update user access list, I want to see if that's used any other place than here. Nope. So we don't need to do that because we're not using it. And all this is gone. And that also means that can go. It's not in use. Okay, easy enough. That one's out of there. I love when I get rid of code that's no longer in use. Every bit cleans the code, right? Okay, what's next? Get permissions, delete permissions, save permissions. That's not bad. Profile, user roles. Let's get save profile. Let's find that one. This one is one step above what we had in the other stuff. It's more than just, well, let's go to the admin editor. Let's grab a copy of something like this. Okay, let's see, we have that, copy that, and we're going to move to this place where we have the next function. Let's say Need the sign that says validate entries. Yeah, we'll have to clean that up at some point. There's always room for more validation on everything we do, so I'm not too worried about it saying that at this point in time. This will be save profile, which will be there. And then here's, okay, most of this is the same except for the avatar part, but that's all fine. I'm going to put this in here. One of the things I did on the other page was, because it's avatar, I wasn't using my avatar, I was using avatar. There's functions that are going to be shared for both sides. If it's my avatar or not, even though this is always going to be my avatar, I'm still going to call it avatar in the functions list. That's all of the pieces being passed in. So that should be everything I need for this particular function to run. And now let's get from here. Well, actually, save profile. I need to create one here. Save profile. Copy that and drop it here. And then here we go once again. Avatar is what we're going to call that one. And then we have our instance. I know this one's more like avatars. It really, I know that I put it on this page, but because it does have the username and stuff, where the avatar pages tend to not work that direction. So, because I mixed the two, I went with putting it here. Could have gone either way, but that's where I wrote it, so that's where it is. And I'm going to make sure that each one, okay, first of all, that one's in place, username's in place, so I need avatar instance and display name. That will take care of these. Okay. Like I said, username's already there, so I don't need that one. And then I have this one. Okay. And then we're going to read in those three values, whatever they happen to be. Give it three different pieces. And we have avatar ID, instance, and display name. Just going down the list. Okay, and there we go with that. Next. Okay, now that I have those values, they're all being put in here, and they will run this process when it hits it. No problem. That's still in the users table, so we're good with all that stuff. Does it have a callback? Let's find out. This one, okay, so I took that out of there already. We're good to go. Save profile. Save profile does this. Oh, so this one does process the error. Okay, so take that from there. Go to my admin and my common code where it's running this file. And from here, we're going to tell it to pass the S error. Z response S error, and then all I have to do is package that up nice and pretty here. If I do this, I'll get that error passed right back to the code, and then it can be used from there. Okay, so that's easy enough. Next one, save profile is now done. We're just whittling this thing down and away. Okay, so we have save user role, delete user role, then we have some permission ones. Okay, let's start with the roles. Save user role, find in the code, and it's used right there. This is on the admin side of things, which makes perfect sense because it's going to be called, oh, I didn't delete the old one, which I would have found when I do my search at the end. So I would have noticed. That is save profile. Everything's done with that one. Let's go into save profile. We're good to go. Okay, so take this to there. Copy and drop that in here. User role, add role, adding. Okay, that's all fine. I want it from here to... And we'll take that out of there. So save user role is the function name. Do that first. Go in here, create the function. We're getting there. We're getting there. Bear with me. Still getting rid of iframes. Right now I'm working on the user file and dropping out some of these different pieces that we're using iframes for the roles, permissions, user logins, and all that kind of stuff. So right now we're working our way through this list. Getting close. Cool, got it. Yeah. Cool. Of course. Let's see. I hit the darn insert key. I can't stand the insert key. There we go. Z there. And once you get used to not using the insert key, if you put it on, you get all whacked out, screwed up. Okay, so Z user roles, the new, that one hasn't been passed into here yet. So pass that equals that. And we need role ID. Okay, so pass this value into here. And role ID. Copy that here, and now we're able to pass that. Do this in cool. Oh. Yeah, this part here. I had iframes when I first set it up, and I'm killing off the iframes. There's so many better ways to do it now where you don't have to leave your actual page to do things asynchronous. Back when I first set up this iframes part, there were a couple functions that were causing pauses in the animation because even though they said asynchronous, the execution of it didn't go asynchronous. So when I threw it in an iframe page, it basically ran on a different page and my page could completely ignore it and not interrupt my animation. So that was kind of the reason why I did it that way. You'll get there. So you'll get there. We'll get you there. No problem. No problem. I can teach you a lot in that area. Okay, let's see. What do we have? Save user role. I've taken that one out. And I want to see if save user role does a callback function. Save user role. Yes, it's basically taking that. I'm passing the user ID back. Okay. Don't know if I need it, but it's going to get passed back. I didn't even pull it here. So save user role. Get user must automatically have a thing that says use my current ID if it's not there. Because there's no other reason that I can see that I wouldn't use that value. Okay, so since I'm already... What's going on in the callback? That one doesn't make sense to me. I don't remember why, but I did not pass something back from here, so I wasn't pulling a user ID. And then when I process this, I'm taking a user ID, which should be my ID. Z user ID, which is what gets passed. Is it the user ID that I'm passing into the function? Let me find out where. I got to track this down real quick. I'm passing it into the function. It is that user ID. And, oh, well, that explains a lot. I didn't copy these yet. I was going to say, I'm not passing those things in there, but yeah, this would help. Okay, so now that I'm passing the right things in, now I know I can take this Z user and I can pass it right back out on the part here, and it didn't have to go to the server to get there. No problem. Helps if you get the whole thing, right? Okay, now it makes sense. That gets it from there, that does the pass back, and we're good to go on this one. That does that. Nothing else needs to happen on this end. And that one's out of there. Definitely. Well, see, HTML is like final presentation. This is what the site shows. Boom. Same with CSS. This is what you're seeing. This is what you do. Then the server-side stuff is a dynamic way of creating the HTML. So when you do this, what ends up happening is you end up manipulating from, let's say, things from your database, things from your environment, yes/no questions from form data, or anything else that you're doing to decide what HTML gets generated and CSS gets generated to show on the page to give it to the customer, or give it to the end user, the person who's going to view the site. So it's all the thing on the back end code, PHP. If you're doing PHP, Java, not JavaScript, but Java. If you're doing C#, or if you're doing VB code, or whatever code you're doing on the back end, that's all about manipulating and creating the end outcome of the HTML that's going to be shown to the user. Now, once it gets to that user, JavaScript is the way that we change and manipulate and work with whatever happens on the client side. Now, whenever we're dealing with something like a gaming engine, this whole gaming engine is client side. It's all JavaScript. So I tell it from my database in the back end what to load. It sends across all the definitions. They get loaded using JavaScript. The JavaScript creates the scene. Then it actually goes in there and adds the components of the different items that I pulled from the database by definitions, and then adds them right to the site. So by the time you see something like this, even something as simple as this, we've already done a ton of JavaScript. And when I walk around in this scene and I just move back and forth or do anything like this, I'm actually using JavaScript that whole time. This is using HTML5 canvas, and it's painting on the canvas all this animation that we're doing. Everything from clicking this and it expands, that's all JavaScript client side. It tells it when I click this, if it's already open, close it. If it's already closed, open it. And it opens a little div tag, and it tells it to either show or hide this based on when I click this. So everything that you're seeing here, if I tell it to turn on zones or turn off zones or merge data or focus or whatever I'm telling it to do, this is all JavaScript acting on the client side until I tell it to do something more than that. For example, when I go in here and okay, hang on. Let's go to options. And for example, I have my building name and I say, oh, this is the name of the building. I can call it a different name, save settings, and now that did the JavaScript on the front that ended up closing my menu and telling me I was done with that particular function. But I also went using JavaScript, sent a code to one of my handlers, then the handler went to PHP, decided what to do, saved it to my database, which is now server-side code backend, and then returned back and finished out whatever it was doing over here if I have something else to finish out in JavaScript. So I'm bouncing constantly back and forth between server-side and JavaScript and manipulating what's on the screen. So everything you see, like an example, when I move my arrow to move forward, that's picking up in JavaScript. It's picking up what we call an event handler. The event was I hit a keyboard key. I could be clicking a mouse. I could be rolling the scroll button on the mouse. I could be doing a touch screen. Any kind of things like that are inputs. So you take those in JavaScript and then you tell it what you want it to do. So JavaScript is working with the client. If I'm the client, I'm over here, I'm the one pushing the keyboard. It's all JavaScript that tells me I've pushed that keyboard. Now what do I want it to do? I can either manipulate more stuff on client side, which in this case, I tell them to walk forward all in JavaScript. There's no server encode going on in that process to make him walk on the screen, turn, do whatever he's doing. That's all client-side JavaScript. But if I turn around and make it add something to the screen, I may go to PHP, I may go back, grab some things from the server, bring them back in, and then load them to JavaScript to now include them in what is being shown on the screen. So that's kind of in a nutshell, the difference between client side and server side, and where you were, like you mentioned, that you've been doing HTML and CSS, you're working on how to make a screen look the way you want when it's there. Once you get that under your belt a little bit, then it's time to say, now dynamically I want to create it depending on conditions. So then you start working on server side to generate the HTML and CSS that goes on the screen. Then you go, now that I have these on the screen, what happens when I click a button? What happens when I do this? I want to make it do other things on the JavaScript side. So you have both sides of the coin, and we use them all the time. Some things happen on client side, like if you type in a value and I don't accept it, I may reset it to a different value for you, and it never goes all the way through the other side of things. So yeah, so we definitely want to track the different pieces, the different sides, and the different levels of things. We want more to happen on the client because that's their computer and my server doesn't have to do anything. Whenever my server has to get involved, it's because you are working with something that either needs to go to the database or come from the database, which means you've initially started a scene and I need to pull all the information you need to create the scene. So there's different pieces that you're going to get at different times, and that's how it all kind of comes together. So let's see, where were we on this piece? We got a couple more to go here. I'm going to go ahead and take about a 5-minute break, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to finish out this page and then call it a day. So I got about another 15, 20 minutes here to go on this stuff, but we're almost there, and I like to eliminate another iframe page today, so we're going to knock this one out as soon as I get back. But I'm going to take a 5-minute break and refill my coffee cup, and then I'll be back. So I'll be right Okay, I'm back. That was painless and quick, right? I tried to keep it short. Okay, so from here, we're adding roles, adding users. This particular one did just fine. User role function, save user role, and that's the piece that we needed to run. Copy that, and let's move on to the next one, which will be delete user role. Should be very similar in size, shape, color, whatever. Go in here. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like, oh, add user role is right here, and yep, I kept them kind of close, tucked in neat, right next to each other. They share a lot in common. Basically, we have the two pieces on passing here. Get those up here and put a comma. And then we have delete user role. Create that item. Okay, so make that the name of our function, and now until we know that's the name of the thing, we'll take that back out of there in case we forget about it. Case, this is the delete user role break, and let's go get the delete function. Okay, put that here. And update little here, Z there. This is user in role ID. Ooh, okay, so that's a new one. Let's make sure we're passing that as is. We'll add that as a new variable because first of all, user ID, yeah, that's user everywhere. Okay, so this one, user in role ID. That, and let me just grab that so I don't spell it wrong. One misspelling and the whole thing doesn't work the way you expect it to, right? Okay. Now we have that information being passed back. That'll get to here, and let's make sure user in role ID was the same name I just used. Yep, user function, user, delete user. Okay, everything's good on that part, and finally, delete user role if it has a callback, which I believe it does. Delete user and role and save user role. They both had the same callback. We'll take that and get rid of those. Put it here. And this user ID happens to be the same user we clicked on to work with. So we'll pass that right in there directly, and there we go. That one is done. Knocking these out, knocking them out. Okay, so the next one is top of the page. Save permission. Let's get permissions first. Find in files. Let's see if it's even being used. Some of the stuff was, some of it wasn't. Okay, so that one is being used. I'm going to copy this function layout again. Go up, go here. New location that we're going to do this. And we're going to be putting this in here. So, okay. X on that. This will be these two values. Put a comma in after it. There, everything looks good with that. Okay, we did user ID and new access. Okay, so that's a new piece that we're adding. It's also doing community building and thing. Okay, so we want to add these pieces too. Community building. Just making sure I pass through all the values that we need on the other end. And then we have thing. Okay, and we have the permissions are blank. Okay. Oh, that's the return value. I don't have to worry about it. User access is the new access. So I'm going to call that user access. I prefer that name. User access. User ID, and then get permissions is the name of the user access, user ID. User access, user ID. This will be the name of the function, get permissions, and that won't be the callback. We'll double check on that. Okay, so create our next function here. And then we're going to drop the function that we're calling, which is get permissions. Okay, cut that out of there. We don't need it there anymore. Put it here. And now we have the community ID, building ID, and thing ID. So that was all it really needed over here. The rest of it was, that's all it called in that actual function. That's really interesting because I had all those extra things I'm passing in here and I wasn't using any of them for this function. They get used for this stuff, but it doesn't get used here. Okay, so the only three I need are these, and that's why I'm doing this, because we're cleaning up more variables as we go too. We have user stuff, and, well, I'll put it on the bottom, it doesn't matter. Oops, I missed. There we go. Okay, and then same thing down here. We need a community. Oh, I only did that once. Okay, we need 3 new items. This will be community ID. This will be building ID, and this will be thing ID. Okay, reading in those values from the piece that comes in. Let me think about that a second. Permissions. Get user permissions for a particular item. I guess I'm only getting my permissions. Yeah, because it's got to be my default user ID all the time. Okay, so when I call this one, get permissions, the only thing I need, I'm not passing or using those values anymore. This is get permissions, not... I don't know why I had those extra values in there because I'm not actually using them. So I think they were straggling on from the thing I did before it. But that's all I need. It does get permissions. And then after it finishes getting the permissions, does it have... Save and delete has a change in them. Get doesn't do anything, so there's no callback function. That means that is it. Which leads me to question, when I get the permissions, what am I doing with them? I don't think I'm using this function. Yep, I'm not using this function, and I can tell you why, because once I get the permissions, I'm not doing anything with them. That was a big clue that this is obsolete, and now it is gone. Okay, that takes care of that one. We won't even need that. We do that now on the start, so when I go to open a new website, a new item or something like that, I automatically am getting those permissions, so that's why that particular one became obsolete and it's no longer used in the code. So I just wanted to point that out. That's the reason we don't have that issue. Now, once we have permissions, for example, save permissions, I expect this one to have some type of usage. Save permissions, I actually have it used in two different places. We set the access and we're telling it to add that access. Now it makes sense that we're doing something with it. So get in here and let me see, I think I had one still highlighted here. We'll grab this format and I'm going to get these two values. Yeah, I'll just cut them out of there. We don't need them anymore once we put them up here. Put that in there, put a comma at the end of it. And save permissions is going to be the function that we're doing. And we're also going to figure out what comes after that in a minute. So save permissions goes here. Okay, and save permissions has three different possible functions based on which one you choose. So this one has a condition for thing building our community. I like doing them in the other order. That's just my preference. So I'm just going to say if not empty the community ID, then that'll be the first one, else if empty. If not empty, there we go. Else if not empty, the building ID and else if not empty, thing ID. Okay, so that gives me the three statements. Now I will move. When I've been redoing this, just for their layout purposes, I've been doing it where I always do community building and then thing in that order. It's the way we have them in the menu. That's kind of the way I've been approaching things. And so anytime I do get the chance where I'm reordering things or rearranging things, I've been cleaning them up and putting them in that particular order. So okay, so now we have this, and actually I could pass all three of these through that permissions thing because only one of them are going to have a value. The other two are going to be forced to be blank because I have three different levels of this. So I don't even need all that part anymore. I just need, because it is going to be blank here, and this is going to be, yeah, so we just fixed that one. We don't even need that whole thing I just wrote. Figures. Get rid of them when we can, clean up the code when we can. That's the whole purpose of doing all this stuff. And the user access is right there. It does the exact same thing, all three of these. I think I probably changed something since I originally wrote that, which is most likely the case. This one definitely is not in there, and I don't think I have user access either. So let's first add this one. And then also the other one I'm going to add is right this one. And I need two more variables written. Leave that one and this one. Copy that to here and here, and this one. Copy that here and here. You know what? I'm going to get rid of the letters add. It's just going to be user dev access because then it can be add or remove, whatever I have to do. So I'm going to take off the letters add on those and take it off from here. Okay, then on this side of things, new access. That doesn't even make sense. The thing I need is to pass those values, and those aren't even what's being passed. Let me guess, did I do away with this too? I did some different things, and I've changed some permissions and stuff. This one is being called from the user access form page. Okay, this one's still in use. I'm fine with that. Just wanted to know. Because I should be sending in more values. So if this didn't work before, I'm going to fix it right now. We need permissions what it's going to return, so I already know that's the case. Okay, so start with community ID. Which will be our current community ID. We do our building ID. And our thing ID, because then it'll be whatever object we're actually managing at the moment. Okay, and then we need, those are the two things we brought over there, but those are going to be user access for this one. And then we have user ID permissions. We're passing the user ID, which makes sense. User dev access. See, we have user dev access and we have user access. Let's find out why. Let's look at the actual function. This is one of these things that I think I phased out and we will be fixing here. So user search, user access. Okay. This is something we're going to need to do some more work on. It's not ready. It's not ready. It's not in place. Place all. There's our handlers. We'll get that part in place while I'm here. See, this thing's also doing a user search. That's that first key value. It looks to see if it's user ID or if it's the email or the username, display name. That has completely something else to do with it. It's not even going to be... So this would be the user search. Let's call it what it is. If we're going to have them on here, then I might as well have them be spelled right. Okay, so that's user search. Copy that. It's not user dev access, it's the user search because we're looking for the user to add that value to. So that's the new one. It's user search and user access. Those are the two values I'm passing through to there. Now that function will work on the back end, even though I think there's still some things hokey on the front end. When I revisit this, I will check into those areas, but right now, that's all we need. That'll be user search, and that passes it into there, and then it does what it needs to. It's saved permissions, so we have saved permissions, and then this is all going to have to be relooked at, so I'm not too critical about what it is. I just don't want to delete the iframes page and then find out there was a piece that I should have copied off of it. Oh, yes. Save, yes, okay. So save permissions, we have all that, and then we have, once and for all, save permissions makes us do this on the other part, which is here. Okay, so that does the piece that we need. That will pass the right values, and it's up to the JavaScript of how it uses that. And I know when I re-implement that page, I'm going to revisit it, but it will not have an iframe when I do. So that's the purpose in what we're doing right now. And I find that a win just for getting rid of it out of our iframes page. So next we have one left, and I think it's going to be very close to where we just were, and I think it's going to pass some of the same values. There were two last time. Okay, hang on. Back up one step. Copy that and find okay, it would be WalkTheWeb underscore B save permissions, I believe. Find files, find all. Okay, found those, and here's one more left. That's what I thought. There is one more, and we are going to do the exact same thing. Community, request dev access, and well, let me paste it here first. Paste it here. Make sure that no, that's a different value for user dev access. That would be here. And then new access is that value, and it goes to there. Now we got it right. That's going to do the same thing. Okay, because there were two places that called this code, adding dev access and adding regular access. So now it does both of them. Yeah, we just have little thing going on there. That, like I said, it's going to be revisited. I just didn't want to leave any iframes lingering behind. So now back to this one. Let's see what we have. There's going to be two of these in the same format, which I may be getting rid of one just as quick as I did on the other page. But for now, focus on getting rid of the, okay, so that's the new access. That goes into there. User ID name, okay, we're going to use that value to go here, which is now my user search. That takes care of those. And it pushes delete permissions, which are now going to use this other function. Case this, and delete permissions is this right here. X on that. And we're almost done. Believe me, this is going to finish out pretty quick here. That is thing ID. This one's building ID, which we already have in here, by the way. Community ID. And this add user dev access is actually this here. Copy that. And once again, no, that's the access. I think it's this one. Sorry. It's this one that we're passing, because that's the user ID. The dev access is what we're passing. Notice it's defaulting. It's using something very similar to this, but it's removing. So showing me the access, it's going to get rid of the access from that particular user that we passed into this function. So with that said, that should get rid of whoever this user is going to lose that access. There's no reason to pass this because we're not even using it. And on the rebound of this particular function, I think we're doing the same thing we already did, which is save permissions and delete permissions. We're opening the permissions form, which is just refreshing the page. So opens permissions form. Looks like we're good to go on that one. And as I promised, get rid of it all the way to there. And now we have one more of these. Copy that to right here. There's another version of this. And the only difference is this is where We're getting the user ID that does it. Everything else is the same, including the rebound of where it comes back afterwards. Permissions are 0. Dev access is blank afterwards. There we go. That is that function. And finally, with a drum roll, please. We're going to take this page on a clipboard, find, double check, iframes, the name of that page, find all, and nope, it only found its own page. And we are done with another page. Move to recycle bin. Yes. Boom. Gone. Love it. Delete the trash. Just because it's gone, we're out of there. And now we've eliminated another iframes from the page. We still have some left. Notice these up here all have to do with Google Analytics. So do these here. So these 3 right here, these 6 up here. So those 9 files of this. So what I'm looking at is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more files to go, and we are done with iframes. Well, Google Analytics ones too. So we're getting there. We are getting there. We're definitely making progress. There were so many of them when we started, and every time I do this, we knock out another chunk of it. We'll refresh the page to make sure there are no syntax errors. All this stuff's going to be tested, so I don't have to worry about it right now. I want to test them when they're done because I need to go through and make sure everything works. And sometimes doing one will trigger something else breaking. So the easiest way to do it is to do them one at a time, make all the changes, then go through and test everything and just make sure everything's ready to go. So that is good. We've gotten rid of those pieces, and it is another successful day here at WalkTheWeb. So thank you for joining me today. I'll be back on again tomorrow. But have a great day, and I hope you saw something new today, or a little bit more of the old, but feel a little bit more comfortable that we're getting closer and closer to a great product. Have a great day, and I will see you again soon. If you haven't followed me, please follow me, and then you'll know when I'm online, and we can all work on this together. If you have a project that you want to work on that creates a game, if you would like to use my product as part of the framework, then definitely I got your back. I'll help you get there. If you need things added to the framework or change on the framework or whatever to make your stuff work, I'll work with you. I'll partner with you on projects that use my product, WalkTheWeb. It's open source, so you have that available too. You can go on, download it. It's right below your screen here. It's on GitHub. It's http://walktheweb is the name of the product. Okay, so have a great day, and I will see you again tomorrow.